Hello 3D printing friends. Today on the BV3D channel we'll learn about a cool feature in PrusaSlicer. Stick around and we'll get into it right after this. I'm Brian and you are watching BV3D. This episode of the BV3D channel is brought to you in part by these awesome channel members. Hi, welcome back. Hey, if you're new here and you're wanting to learn about 3D printing, 3D modeling, and other 3D printing related stuff, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at a cool feature in PrusaSlicer called the Shape Gallery, and I'll show you a couple of uses for it. So sometimes when printing models with sharp corners, even with really good bed adhesion, there can be issues with warping for various reasons. The filament that's being added to each successive layer contracts a little bit, and this force can add up over several layers and actually peel a corner of the print off the bed. One way to mitigate that warping is by using a brim in the slicer, which is kind of a really wide outline around the print. But in some instances that can be overkill. So another thing you can do is use something that PrusaSlicer calls helper discs, but I know them as mouse ears, and you'll see why in a second. These are small one-layer high circles that you arrange at the corners of a model where it might try to warp up. They provide additional surface area to that part of the model where it contacts the bed to help prevent that warping. And then when the model has finished printing, you can easily trim them off. They also look like little round mouse ears, and that's why you'll sometimes hear them called that. To add these to a model that might need them, you'll need to be in the 3D editor view. That's the default view in PrusaSlicer, and it's the view you see when you're adding models for slicing. Right-click on the model you want to add them to, point to Add Part, then select Gallery. When the Shape Gallery window opens, select Helper Disk, then click the OK button. A helper disk will appear next to the model, and you can drag it to where you want it. Now sometimes it helps to view the model from directly above, and a very quick way to do that is to press the 1 key on your keyboard. If you click away from the disk before you've positioned it, and you find that you can't select it to move it again, take a look here in the Objects list. Clicking an item in that list will select just that item, so you can reselect the disk you want to move and then move it. Click in an empty area of the plater to accept the disk's position. To add additional helper disks, right-click the model, point to Add Part, click Gallery, click another helper disk, click OK, and position it where you want it. Now, I told you to right-click on the model to get to the gallery and add a helper disk for a reason. By right-clicking on the model to do this, the helper disk is considered part of the model, and if you move the model around, the helper disks move with it. If instead you right-click on the plater, point to Add Shape, and then select Gallery, any item you add is considered a separate object from the model and won't move with the model. In fact, items added this way tend to appear centered on the plater, so you'd have to move your model out of the way to find it. Plus, if you used Auto Arrange, PrusaSlicer would try to arrange objects added that way so they didn't touch, completely defeating the purpose of having added them in the first place. Now, there may be times when you want objects added from the gallery to behave like that, but for the purposes of carefully placing the disks at the corners of the model, adding them by right-clicking the actual model itself to get to the gallery will keep them all as a single unit. And you can easily reposition the model and its helper disks on the plater without having to move all of the disks separately. So having added those, you can slice and print your model, and those sharp corners may stand a better chance of sticking to the bed. You can also use the Shape Gallery as a library of models that you frequently print. Suppose you often printed a set of calibration models, like maybe a Benchy, or a Calicat, or a Chep Cube. You can add these to the Shape Gallery to be able to quickly add them to the plater so you can slice them and print them. To do this, bring up the Shape Gallery by right-clicking on the plater, pointing to Add Shape, then selecting Gallery. Clicking the Add button will open a file selection dialog box so you can navigate to where an STL file is stored on your computer, select it, and add it to the Shape Gallery. You can also just drag STL files into the Shape Gallery window to add them. From then on, the models will be available there in the Shape Gallery whenever you want them. Need a Benchy? Right-click, Add Shape, Gallery, 3D Benchy, done. So that's a quick introduction to the Shape Gallery in PrusaSlicer. It's a fast, easy way to add mouse ears to a model that has a problem with corners lifting, and it's also a handy place to keep frequently printed models available inside PrusaSlicer itself. Well, 3D printing friends, that's about all the time we have for this episode. And now that we're at the end, let's go print something cool. Hey, real quick before you go, I wanted to say thanks for being one of the super awesome people who sticks around all the way to the end, and thanks for all the likes, comments, and shares. And an especially big thanks to those who directly support what I do. You're all wonderful for doing that, and I really appreciate it. If you liked this episode, a thumbs up would be great, and if you'd like to help support the channel, check the description for ways you can do exactly that. And hey, if you haven't already subscribed, please do. It's absolutely free, and it's an excellent way to help keep me making these videos for you. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time here on the BV3D channel.